What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Potomac. This is season 10, and we're going to be covering episodes 2 and 3, so buckle up, because I got thoughts. I got a lot of thoughts. So let's get into the video. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the reviews, sometimes we get a little spicy. Well, I did a standalone spicy corner, and it's called Spicy Corner Central. Now, the reason why it was called Spicy Corner Central is because it's everybody. So all of the shows that I review that I normally do a spicy corner in or do a standalone spicy corner video, I decided to combine all of them together because I just got off a vacation. I just don't have the capacity to make 4 videos. I just didn't. But y'all know I try my best to timestamp all of my videos. So there's a timestamp for OC, Salt Lake City, Potomac, and Miami. And if you're interested, the Potomac section, I talked about the timelines, not the timelines, the taglines. I talked about the taglines, Wendy and Eddie finally speaking out since their arrest, as well as Kiarna being on Watch What Happens Live, okay? So if you're interested, check that out. The link will be in the description box below. But let's get into this review. All right, y'all, so let's get into this. Pray for me that this is not a 2-hour video. Y'all know I like to talk, but I cannot edit a 2-hour video. That would be diabolical. Diabolical. All right. So episode 2 opens up where it left off, where we're still at Ashely's second bloom ball, and she's arguing in the lobby with Stacy. She got her finger wagging, basically telling Stacy, "You misrepresented yourself, Stacy. You misrepresented yourself. You came into this group and you misrepresented yourself." Stacy is telling Ashely, "Get that finger out of my face, and girl, you're a messy devil. You're the devil." So then we see Stacy's friend pull up to the group, AJ. AJ is like, "Okay, like, girl, y'all doing a lot. We in our good clothes. I'm in my good suit. Y'all in y'all little ball gowns. Like, can we all just chill out?" You then see Charisse and Tia join the conversation. So then AJ is like, "Well, if she shows you her divorce documents, will that like suffice, and we can move on from this, and we can go back into the party and call it a day?" And Ashely doesn't really say nothing, but then Tia was like, "Well, she just doesn't want to feel like she's been lied to." And Ashley's like, "Yes." So then we hear Ashely in her confessional basically saying the math ain't mathing with Stacy. When she joined the group, she was getting a divorce, and we met TJ, and she was dating TJ. Now all of a sudden she's spinning the block to get back with her husband. So we see another flashback, and it's of AJ, Stacy, Tia, Giselle, and Ashely. And it looks like they're at like a fundraiser or a community event, something, or a networking event. And Ashely notices that Stacy has like her wedding ring on her finger, and she's like, "Girl, what's that? Like, what's that bling on your finger?" And Stacy says, "Well, me and my ex-husband are trying to work it out." Ashely makes this face like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Ashely, it took you like 5 years to get a divorce, and for the past 5 seasons or 4 seasons, you've been doing this whole like, I don't know, like, I don't know what Michael, like, I don't know what this pasty demon I had 2 kids for, like." I love him. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to be a single mother. That's what you did for 5 seasons or 4 seasons. So I don't understand why we're acting like you can't understand why Stacy will want to like spin the block with her ex-husband, especially a man that we find out she's been married to for almost like 15 years. And then TMZ confirmed that no, Stacy was telling the truth. Her and Timu did get a divorce, and they saw the divorce documents. Pretty much, they filed for separation in August of 2023, and then by December of 2024, their divorce was finalized. So, like, their divorce went by pretty quickly. So I could understand them being like, "Hey, do we really want to, like, are we sure we want to be divorced and start, living our lives separately?" And then you think about it, they have a 9-year-old between them. Like, maybe we really want to work this out and figure out what we trying to do. So Ashely being like, "Oh my gosh, it's weird to me." Shut up, Ashely. That's all. The past 2 episodes, I was just like, "Ashely, shut up." She's like so irritating. I can't do it with her. So then you see Giselle in her confessional basically saying she feels like Stacy did not get a divorce, but Stacy wants everybody else to believe that she got a divorce. And she was like, "Stacy just needs to be honest with us." So we get back to the argument between Stacy and Ashely, and AJ is just like, "Well, why are we acting like it's weird that she is talking to her ex-husband? Like, we act like people don't do that. Ashely's like, it's the principle. We can be a lot of things in this group, but we can't be liars. Girl, you're one of the biggest ones. I've been watching this show since season 1. You are a liar. Girl, you lied on Say Yes to the Dress, and you lied on this show. We've seen Ashely purposely mischaracterize situations and relay information to people to cause chaos, confusion, and violence. So, like, girl, Giselle's a liar. Wendy, we found out, is a liar. Stacy's a liar. This cast is full of liars. You're a liar. So, yes, y'all can be liars. So, shut up, Ashely. So then the scene shifts and we go back to the confrontation between Kiarna and Wendy, where Kiarna is basically like, she don't know what it is with Wendy. She don't know if Wendy is socially awkward, but she feels like there's been this awkwardness between them when they meet beyond the show. And she's just like, she wanted to touch base with Wendy to understand what the issue is. So then Wendy was like, looking at her like, girl, I'm not understanding, because the example that Kiarna is giving, they're weak examples. I understand what Kiarna is saying, and I do think when it came to her conversation that she had with Wendy in episode 3 that we're going to talk about, that she made a better, like, argument there. But in this moment, I was with Wendy where I was like, girl, you saying a bunch of nothing. Like, at this point, like, you're not really giving me anything other than you feel like I'm being weird towards you. I'm telling you I'm not being weird, but I operate friendships differently. I don't know what else I can give you. But Wendy somewhat apologizes to Kiarna. You hear Angel say, well, maybe it's a miscommunication. And then Kiarna's like, well, no, I don't want anybody to, pretty much like gaslight me about my feelings. And I was like, no one's gaslighting you, girl. They're just saying that maybe it could just be a simple miscommunication, okay? So then we see Ashely, Tia, and Stacy come to the group, and like Wendy welcomes Stacy and Ashely and Tia and and Angel and all of that stuff. And she's like, Stacy, come closer to the group. You're a part of this. And then Ashely, as she's sitting down, is like, y'all know Stacy be lying. And then Ashely brings up how Kiarna told her that Stacy said she was never gonna really break character with the group. And Stacy's looking at Kiarna like, girl, what? And Stacy's like, what are you talking about, Kiarna? And Kiarna's like, well, Stacy, that's what you said. That's what you said. So then Stacy says, well, Kay, every time we get around each other, it seems like you got some unnecessary like hostility with me. So then Kay is like, or Kiarna is like, girl, stop it, Stacy. It's not that deep. Like, then Stacy's like, Kiarna, do you want to fight? Like, do you want to fight? And then Kiarna's like, well, if I wanted to fight you, Stacy, I would fight you. And Stacy's like, yeah, I know that, girl. I know that. I know how you get down. So, ooh. So then Angel jumps in and she's like, well, I'm not going to let y'all like characterize my friend as like, a negative person. She's not that at all. And, I've known her for 20 years. And then Stacy's like, really, girl? Like, you ain't just seen how everybody has like attacked me? Like, so she's looking at Angel like, girl, shut up. So then in the confessional, Stacy's like, I don't understand why everybody is up against me and why everyone is like unjustly trying to beat me down. Stacy, this is where I got to call BS on you, because you set it up this season to be this way for you. You ended last season showing that you're not loyal to anybody. You were welcomed into this group by Karen, and you threw Karen under the bus when it came to the whole Wendy situation. And everyone was kind of like, girl, looking at you like, wow, Stacy. Then you clicked up with Mia, who already showed you multiple times that she's a full-blown liar. So it's kind of like, girl, why are you being friends with somebody who's technically public enemy number 1 on the show? Like, that didn't make sense. Didn't make any sense to me. Then we get to the reunion, and like everybody already thought your relationship with TJ was weird, and then he busted you out about like, girl, it was like a contractual obligation, like y'all weren't really down with each other, which a lot of people believe, and I still believe. Do I believe that she was promising him that much money? No, but I do think she asked him to be on the show and be her boyfriend, and maybe she promised him a little bit of change, but like, she didn't follow through with it. And then now the cannabis thing, it's like, Stacy, you set yourself up to be the target for next season. The girls was gonna be on your neck. It was simple. It was very simple. So we then see Giselle go talk to Cookie, which is Karen's best friend. She's asking her how Karen is doing, how is she in jail? And Cookie's like, no, she's doing fine. She asks about Ray and all of that stuff. And then Giselle basically says that she wants to do something special for Karen's birthday because it's coming up, just to celebrate her even though she's not here. Then the night ends with this like burlesque show that I was like, girl, what is this? But before the burlesque show, this really funny scene where Stacy reveals that she's Nigerian tickled me. Because you see Wendy and Tia bonding over both being Nigerian. You know, Tia explains how she's royalty because her grandfather is a prince and all of this stuff. And then Stacy was like, well, you know, I'm Nigerian too. I said, Stacy, shut up, Stacy. But back to the burlesque. This lady comes out. Mind you, she was a very pretty lady, but I was just like, I don't understand this. My face was Giselle's face, like, girl, what is this? And I like a good stripper. I do. I've been to parties with strippers where the girls are shaking yams and, you know, and they melons. But it's like, it coincide with the party. Like, we was turning up. It was like this. I was like, this is awkward. And it was weird because the girl was by herself. I was like, she doing all of it. I was like, this probably would have translated better if it was like multiple dancers. Like a full-blown show, not just one person. And I was like, Ashely, you always gotta like raunch up something and you just do it at the most like weirdest time. Cause this was like, ugh. I was like, no. So the next thing we have is of Stacy and Wendy. And basically it was an alliance agreement. That's what it was. Stacy is tired of every time she gets into a group scene that Kiarna, Giselle and Ashely are whacking her. And she's like, I need backup. So she's going to Wendy because she feels Wendy is the most level-headed. But in an alliance conversation or a negotiation or a meeting, you have to be honest. So she's putting everything out on the table with Wendy. We see her pull up to Wendy's house. Mind you, they're sitting on the porch or the deck. I ain't gonna lie. When that camera panned out, I was looking like, yeah, you needed a ladder to get to the second floor. I'm sorry, Wendy and Eddie, I'm sorry. Because, like, saying that, the police saying that there was no ladder, unless the robbers were doing parkour in their spare time, I don't know. Like, common sense would say they would need a ladder. So they're sitting out on the deck, and Wendy ends up asking Stacy, so how you been? We haven't spoken since the second Bloom ball. Like, are you and Ashely in a good place? Stacy informs Wendy about how the last time she saw Ashely before the second Bloom ball was at the boutique, and Ashely basically was coming at her, yelling at her about being shown documents that TJ was going to sue her. And Wendy's like, is that true? And Stacy's like, I don't even know how to respond to that. That type of response is a response. So it's given that it potentially is true, girl. It's giving that, okay? So Stacy is just like, there's like a lot of things that keep coming up where I don't know how to respond to these things. So then Wendy notices the ring on Stacy's finger and she's like, girl, are you engaged? And Stacy's like, no, I'm back with my husband. Wendy looks to the side like, girl, what? Like, Stacy, like, are you serious? And Wendy's like, I'm all for marriage, you know, but to be honest, it seems too convenient for you to be getting back with your husband now that the women are questioning your relationship with TJ. It don't look right, Stacy. Well, Stacy's like, well, that's what's happening in my life. So then Stacy decides to tell Wendy that, you know, the whole cannabis situation where Giselle was trying to say that I was going to start a Happy Stacy line. They flash back to the reunion. She was like, I do have a cannabis line coming out, but by the time we were at the reunion, it wasn't in works. Like, I didn't start actually implementing my business strategy or my business plan until March. And I think they filmed the reunion in February. Yeah, at the beginning of February. So she was like, I didn't know what Giselle was talking about. Honestly, Stacy, this is not a good response, okay? Because then Wendy ends up saying, so Giselle was right. And Stacy's like, well, no, because I didn't start it in March. But I'm just like, girl, you just should have been like, hey, I'm thinking about the idea of doing a cannabis line. I haven't started any of like buying in or having a partner or anything like that. I've just been trying to gain my, grab research from the field. And that would have been an honest response, and we could have deaded it right there. But to say you don't know what Giselle is talking about, and then 4 months later you cop to it, it does give, girl, you lied. Like, you blatantly lied. So then we go back to that flashback that we saw during the second Bloom ball with Ashely Tia, AJ, Stacy, and Giselle, where we see Giselle talking to this guy by the name of Terrence, who basically says that, he's the guy that Stacy approached about doing being her business partner. So Giselle's like, oh, so you're the guy that was like, who are you and why should I be partners with you? And the guy was like, yeah, I am that guy, pretty much. So it seems like Giselle was not lying on Stacy. So then instead of Wendy getting mad, she just basically tells Stacy, I wish you much success, because we find out that before the reunion, it seems as though Wendy and Eddie already knew that this is what Stacy was doing, because in the confessional, Wendy says that people in the cannabis industry were contacting Eddie and Wendy, telling them that Stacy was shopping around trying to find partners. So at the end of the day, to me, Stacy should have just been honest and upfront with it, so she wouldn't be sitting here trying to explain herself. Now, at the end of this conversation, it was weird that Wendy was trying to act like she didn't want Stacy to use the bathroom. I'm like, girl, are the stolen goods in the house in the bathroom? I'm confused. Why are you acting like the lady can't use the bathroom unless you got a porta potty outside? That was kind of weird, Wendy. So then the next thing we have is of Tia and Giselle meeting up, where we actually get a little bit of information about Tia and her family. So we meet her husband, Rob. We find out that he's from Chicago, that they've been married for 17 years. It looks like they got married back in 2007, or they started dating in 2007. They have 4 kids together. When I tell you all them kids look like Rob, they all have Rob's nose. Her oldest is Sienna. She's 16. Then there's a middle child, Alexis. She's 13. And then the 2 twins, I think the daughter's name is Amiris. I think it's Amiris, and the little boy's name is Nathaniel. They're 10 years old. We see Giselle pull up to the house, greet the kids. We find out that the kids were going to, the mall and stuff like that. So Tia and Giselle have this conversation on the couch while the family leaves. Giselle makes this shady comment about so the dad's the nanny, because Tia says she's not going to be, running all across town to do these errands. She didn't do that growing up. She always had a driver. And then Giselle was like, oh, so he's the nanny. And Tia's like, yeah. And I was like, I felt like that was shady, because I'm like, the way that Tia talked about the conversation about the way her and her husband parent the kids in episode 3 seemed like a more realistic conversation and what she's really living. I do think this whole posh attitude, I think Tia might get exposed, because now there's a few Nigerian people coming out online saying that Nigerians really don't have people that are royal in the sense of princesses and princes. So I don't know. It's giving that Tia did live a very wealthy lifestyle, but the whole royalty thing might not be real. I don't know. That's what some of the Nigerians on Twitter are saying, okay? But I feel like she was posturing to Giselle, because I'm like, girl, you're regular. You're bougie. It is giving a bougie tease, but you married a man from Chicago. If it was really important for you to live that rich girl lifestyle, you would have married somebody from England or from Nigeria in the same tax bracket. So let's not. I don't think it's a problem for her to say that she's not gonna get haggard being a mom, because I don't think you should. I don't think you should be worn down by being a parent. You should be able to have your own life and still participate and play an active role in your kids' lives. So her admitting that she likes to have alone time or be by herself, that's not a problem to me, But I just feel like she's kind of over-exaggerating things, and I'm like, girl, just be yourself. Because the streets will expose you, all right? They will expose you. So we move on from Tia and Giselle, and the next scene we have is Ashely going to this White House correspondence dinner. When I tell you, I wouldn't go nowhere near the White House with this administration. Ashely talking about, oh, it's to support the White House. I said, okay. No way for me. We end up seeing her sister, Jessica. Jessica has Sheila's entire face. I was like, wow. Your daddy's genes did not help. Jessica and Ashely have not had the best relationship. They're currently rekindling their relationship because Jessica is about to go to school at the University of Maryland. So, and the reason why they don't have the best relationship is Jessica's dad is the guy that Ashely don't like. She's the one that we saw that one season where she told Sheila, he's sucking the life out of you, and had her living underneath a bridge. So that would probably cause tension between anybody, siblings as well, because your sister don't like your daddy. And the life has probably been sucked out of Jessica too, because I think she might have daddy issues. Because when they were talking about Josh and her saying that Josh was a little boyish, I was like, girl, Josh is 30 and your sister is 37 or 38. I think that's not a really big age difference when, like, they're in the same tax, like the age, I was about to say tax bracket, but age bracket, you know? I mean, 30 versus 38 is a big deal because you're more closer to 40. But I'm like, to say he's boyish, I'm like, girl, I hope you don't got daddy issues because your sister's weird. We find out that Josh and Ashely had a falling out because she went to go film Love Hotel. When they showed that picture of her kissing that old white man, I said, ugh. And don't get me wrong, there are some men who are of a certain age where I'm like, oh, he fine. Homecoming, the old black men that be on the yard door, fine as hell. Some of them fine as hell. I be like, I see why the girls was on you during the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and 60s. Cause you fine. You fine, okay? But none of the men that Ashely date, like, they all give that they wear life alert bands and they have jitterbugs as phones. It's gross. It's gross. And I'm just like, why do you think Josh is boyish? Just, I wish she would have asked her more. Like, what about him is so boyish? Other than him wearing them sneakers to go to the White House, I was like, okay, that makes sense because I'm like, we're going to the White House. Put on some actual, like, dress shoes. But Ashely telling that man in the car, like, can there be one time you don't put product in your hair? And I'm like, you're critiquing him for putting product in his hair? Then she says that he needs to have white sheets because that shows a sign of maturity. I don't like white sheets. My sheets are always colorful. Mainly because I'm like, white sheets remind me of like a hotel or a hospital. Girl, what? They're not making sense to me. They are like, Ashely does not make sense to me. And I don't get why Josh is like wants to be with Ashely. Honestly, I see the rebrand that Ashely is trying to go for. You notice that we have yet to see Ashely with like her natural hair. She's either wearing these wigs. Yeah, she's been wearing these wigs. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. We have not gotten a confessional with Ashely with her natural hair. I was like, I'm peeping that she's trying to rebrand herself. But girl, we seen you. I see you. I know what you're doing, girl. So we move on from Ashely and her sister and Josh. And then we have this dinner scene with Bobby and Angel. Bobby is cute to me, okay? I like a big, stocky man, okay? Very strong man, okay? They're sitting at this dinner, and, you know, they're just reminiscing. We find out that their anniversary is coming up. They are coming up on 6 years of being married. He, like, you know, teases her about, hey, like, you ain't want me till I had money, because he slid in her DMs. And then I think it took, like, 4 years before she responded back to him. And I said, girl, ain't nothing wrong with that, because love is not going to pay bills. So get your money right and then come talk to me, okay? But she was like, no. But they are trying to get acclimated to living in DC. They missed their Colorado home because it's set upon a bunch of acres of land. And when they show pictures of that house, and Angel says like their home won a bunch of awards, I believe it. It's a beautiful home. Like the different photos they showed, I was like, oh, that's lovely. I don't even know why you in DC. Girl, I would live at that house. But I guess it's because Bobby is retired, and now that they have the 2 kids, they need more help, because in episode 3, we end up seeing her father, and we end up seeing Bobby's mom, and it seems like the mom is like being a pseudo nanny, helping Angel with the 2 kids. So, you know, she's just like, you know, we're just getting acclimated back to being around this area, being around family, and she was like, that's what's most important. But they do want to find a new house. She wants to renovate if the price is right and it sits on the amount of land that they want. Pretty much she was like, at a minimum, she wants 5 acres. Bobby was like, I think 2 is okay. I don't know if they're going to find that in Maryland. Definitely you can find that in Northern Virginia. But I know people don't like living farther out from the city. Where I grew up, we had land. We were next to the battlegrounds. Like the Manassas battleground and all of that stuff was where I lived. And I would drive through the area, like when I'm trying to go to the movies or the mall and stuff like that. And there would be like $6 and $7 million homes with like land. That's why I call horses lawn art. You know, because there would be homes where it would just be a boatload of horses just grazing, but you would never see anybody like ride them. So I was just like, oh, they're just pretty. They're just lawn art and things of that nature. And things of that. So we find out that Angel wants to throw like this peace and tranquility party because she realizes that nobody really got to get to know her and Tia, and she didn't really get to know the women because there was so much going on. And Bobby ends up asking her, like, are they hazing you? And Angel's like, well, I can't be hazed. I said, girl, that's a lie because they whacked the hell out of you on episode 3 at that table. Oh my God, girl, they hit you hard. They hit you hard. But she is optimistic about her relationships in the group. And I like the fact that Bobby is supportive. You know, he seems like he really is trying to be there for her. And I appreciate that. So, the next scene we have is with Kiarna and Giselle. And honestly, girl, what that scene boiled down to for me was that Kiarna is auditioning to be a Giselette. It's something about Giselle that makes women want to like perform for her. I don't know what type of aura she is admitting. I don't know what type of devil fruit or what type of nin she has. Shout out to all my anime friends if you get my references. She has every time a new girl gets into the group, they feel like they have to perform for Giselle. Because that whole conversation and the way that she spoke about Angel, I was like, what's up with you? I don't get this pressure Kiarna has, like this fever she has for Wendy and Stacy. You can totally tell that she like really internalized everybody calling her boring and saying that she didn't need to be a part of the show. And maybe Kiarna feels like this is really where she wants to be, where like this is her moment, her time, and she's desperately trying to make sure that it sticks. But it's starting to give, girl, they should have like never gave you that pity flute. Because you are way more likable as a friend of, okay? So the scene goes on, and we have Giselle pulling up to Kiarna's condo. Kiarna has a chef in there. Girl, I'm gonna need him to work on his presentation because the way that he did not like shred up that lettuce and just put that chicken on top, I said, so as they're scooping, it's gonna be chicken falling out. I can't do the IG chefs. I need you to have a culinary degree, okay? But she basically invites her over. Giselle ends up asking her, girl, does Greg stay here? Because she ends up seeing a picture of Kiarna and Greg. And she was like, oh yeah, Greg stays here. So now Kiarna and Greg are fully back together. My thing about Kiarna is I don't want to hear you complaining about how that man makes you feel bad about yourself and how he don't support you, because you had an opportunity to get out of that relationship and you decided to run back to it. Y'all don't have kids. Y'all weren't married. You could run away. And you chose not to. And that's not to say if you got kids and if you're married, you can't run away. There's always options. You can always escape. Just putting that out there. You don't got to stay in no loveless situation or no abusive situation. But I'm just like, girl, okay, Greg. So they sit out on the patio or on her deck. We find out that Kiarna had this like caviar and Botox party. And the only women on the cast that went were Angel, Ashely, and Tia. While they were there, Angel and Kiarna somewhat got into it just a little bit because Kiarna keeps rehashing the whole like Wendy basically saying, did you do your own makeup thing with the NAACP? Kiarna tells them that, she didn't even know if Wendy was coming because Wendy said like her kids were sick. And then next thing you know, she pops up and then you ask me, did I do my own makeup? No hi, no hello. And what's up with you, girl? What's up with that? And so now when they were having that conversation, Angel ends up saying, well, did you ask her if her kids were okay? Like, we can't just assume that her kids weren't okay. And Tia was like, well, clearly the kids were okay if she left to go to LA. And Angel was like, well, that's not the case. And that could not be the case. The kids still could have been sick and she passed them off to their dad or a family friend or her sister or Mama Susie. So she was just like, I don't know, Kiarna. So Kiarna gets a full-blown attitude with Angel. And she's like, okay, Angel, if that's what you want to do, you want to defend her? Okay, Angel, okay. And then, like, she had this, like, scowl on her face. Like, she was just staring her down. And I'm like, why are you this, like, why is it this intense with you? That's the issue. Like, Kiarna, why is it this intense with you, ma'am? Okay? So Giselle is like, oh, wow, Angel was defending Wendy. And she was like, yeah. So then Kiarna basically tells Giselle, she was like, well, I had to do a little chin check with her. And Giselle said a chin check. And she was like, chin check means you really had to get somebody together in like a physical way. I've heard chin check in reference to physically, like, you had to chin check somebody, or to like really, that means you like really check, like you put somebody really in their place. And so like Giselle said, and I agree with, you don't really do that to your friends. Like you don't really, like, you check your friends, but you do it in a loving way, especially if you care about the friendship. So then Angel is like, well, I had to like let her know, because like I'm like, girl, is you crazy? Are you cool? Just like acting for Giselle. And I'm like, girl, that's gonna come back and bite you in the ass. And it did. It did. So then we get to Angel's party. Angel basically says she don't want no loud noise, no nothing in her house. And I said, I don't know why you had this at your house. I don't know why you had this at your house, Angel. Because that's not what you don't get calm, cool, and collected from this group. So Wendy is the first person to get there. Then it's Tia. Then we see Giselle and Kiarna. Girl, Kiarna got on a peplum top. When I tell you I ain't seen a peplum top since 2007, I said, girl, where you get that from? Is that coming back in style? No, I do not like that. I don't like that. So Giselle's talking about she don't like peace and tranquility. She like chaos and confusion. And we know because you a chaos demon. All right. So while they're there, Giselle ends up asking Wendy, are her and Kiarna cool? And she said, yeah, I'm good. She's like, I'm fine. And Kiarna's like, we're okay. And in the confessional, Wendy says, this is a one-sided beef with Kiarna. Kiarna's the one that's in pieces. I'm fine. But Kiarna says in her confessional that she feels like Wendy's being passive aggressive, and like they haven't really talked about their issues or really gotten to the root cause of their issues in their situation. But she's willing to like kind of just let it go, but she still wants to have a conversation with. So then we see Ashely get there, and everyone's wondering if Stacy is coming. And Angel's like, yeah, I invited Stacy. She was like, we got food, we got drinks, I got mints. And Tia's like, what's the mints for? And they're all talking about and making fun of Stacy's breath, which I did think was mean-spirited, because like, dang, y'all, okay, like there was a nicer way y'all could do that. So Stacy gets there, and Ashely decides to be the one to give Stacy the mints. Like, girl, here you go. And Stacy's like, oh. Because Ashley's like, well, your breath is a little tart. And I was like, ooh, girl. And the fact that Stacy didn't cuss nobody out, because the way that I would have laid waste in Angel's house, I would have cussed Angel out, Tia out, damn sure Ashely out, Giselle, Wendy. Because Wendy started laughing, like turned her back in full body laugh. Okay? And I would have whacked Kiarna too. Okay? But Stacy took it in stride and basically said that, if this is the only thing that they gonna come at me at is about my breath, it's way better than what they've been coming at me about before. So they go outside, they do the whole sound bath thing. Everybody is kind of like, is this almost over? Like, can we wrap this up? And then Angel lets it be known she's like a certified like outdoors coach or wellness outdoors coach, something like that. And she has this crystal, and she was like, at the end of all of our like retreats or our hikes, we always do this thing where we hold this crystal, and it allows everyone to speak while everyone else is quiet if you don't have the crystal. So Kiarna throws shade when she gets the crystal about Angel showing her what a real friendship is. Tia thanks Giselle for bringing her into the group. Stacy tickled me because Stacy said, oh, y'all want to talk about my breath? Got it. Let's do a cleansing goddess breath. So she makes everybody stand up, and she's like, point your feet out. And she said, give a ha. And they all do it. And I was like, Stacy works my nerves, but I like the way that she getting at these women. Like, she is not allowing them to really see her sweat for real. And I appreciate that. Okay. Even though I do think Stacy is a liar. So they go back into the house, and Stacy basically pulls Ashely to the couch section in Angel's house. And she's like, Ashely, I want to show you something. She was like, here's a document to prove that I am divorced. She was like, I did not want to bring this out at your event without talking to my ex-husband, because I don't feel like it was the right time and place. And this is some sensitive information. So to me, it does look like it was a screenshot from like a website, but it does say Timu's name, Stacy's name, and it says that they are divorced. It says they're divorced. Giselle doesn't buy it. Giselle was just like, that's not a real document. I've had a divorce document. It needs to be stamped and notarized. And she was just like, we got a divorce, but we are thinking about getting back together. But now that like things have gone on, Giselle now is bored with this whole Stacy is divorced or not divorced thing. So she's like, I don't want to talk about this no more. So let's move on. So now they don't care no more. And I was like, well, it is what it is at that point. So Angel's event is over, and we see Kiarna, Giselle, Ashely, and Cookie, Karen's best friend, at Tally Ho celebrating her birthday. Cookie got some real negative energy from Wendy. She walk in there with them big ass titties talking about this is what Wendy was trying to give. Don't nobody want them back problems, lady. Like, dog, like your posture is jacked with them. Like, nobody wants them tiggle bitties, girl. And so she's throwing shade at Wendy. We then find out at this dinner that Ashely reveals, after Cookie lets it be known that Chris Samuels, Monique Samuels' ex-husband, was texting her, that Stacy is trying to get with Chris Samuels. She says that at the end of her second Bloom ball, her friend, I think her name was like Tatiana or something like that, pretty much said that Stacy asked her could she get her in contact with Chris Samuels, and they might be, dating. And then Cookie made a comment where she was like, she was like, he can't have all that nasty stank breath energy in his house. I said, dang, Cookie, dang. So I guess that's their segue to bring Monique in, because you hear Giselle say, bring back Monique. Stacy had TJ. Now she back with her ex-husband, and now she trying to sleep with an old cast member's husband. I said, okay, Giselle. Okay. So episode 3, it opens up and we see Stacy, Arabella, Uncle AJ, and the former Miss DC USA teaching Arabella how to walk and things of that nature. It seems as though she is going to be in a pageant, and honestly, she's cute. When Arabella was introducing herself, she was like, my name is Arabella, and I think she said something about I missed 3rd grade something. It, like, her voice sounded like a kid off of Disney. I was like, she's adorable. But while all of that was taking place, we see Stacy strut her stuff, and AJ said, okay, girl, sit down. This is about the child. She ends up FaceTiming the dad, and she was like showing him Arabella as she walked, and he was like, you could tell he thought she looked pretty and was like proud of her. And Stacy says in her confessional, Arabella is a smart child. She was like, we haven't told her about our relationship, but she was like, I think she kind of might have picked up on it just a little bit, but I'm still committed to not telling her fully what is going on because they just told her about the divorce. And I was like, that's smart. So we then finally have the sit down between Wendy and Kay. And honestly, girl, I saw both sides. I get Kay's frustrations. And honestly, what it boils down with Kiarna is that she wants Wendy to be her friend beyond the show, but Wendy only wants a co-worker friendship. And Kiarna feels like Wendy was not open about it. So we see them meeting up at the docks somewhere at the harbor. And we find out that they're both hosting events for Preakness. Preakness is basically like the Black Kentucky Derby in Baltimore. I've never been, but I've seen a lot of people who have attended their events and things of that nature. I mean, I've been to the actual Kentucky Derby, but I've never been to Preakness. And Kiarna ends up starting off the conversation saying, do you want to like host something together? Because I know you have an event and I'm having an event. And Wendy basically says, girl, well, my event, I got asked to host by the First Lady of Maryland. And you could tell that Kiarna took offense to that, because she's in the confessional being like, oh my God, like, okay, Wendy, your event. Like, she felt as though Wendy was trying to like belittle her because she stated like, well, my event, the First Lady of Maryland, like, so we can't really host it together because it's under my name, because she asked me to host the event. So Kiarna's like, let's get off of that. She was like, I want to talk about our friendship. And it brings it back to the second Bloom ball, where she basically says that she felt like Wendy was being condescending at the second Bloom ball, and like when she was trying to share her opinions and her thoughts about their situation. And so Wendy is kind of looking at her kind of like, girl, from my perspective, I really haven't done anything. She was like, I've supported you. I've been there for you. Last year on my birthday, trip, which really wasn't a birthday trip. It was just Mia wanting to be at Lake Norman, when she could have went to like the Dirty Myrtle or Winston-Salem instead of Lake Norman. But basically, when Ashely brought up about Kiarna dating a drug dealer and saying that's what people know about her and all of this stuff, and Wendy's like, girl, I told you don't let these women like make you feel bad about yourself, and I was the only person that got her from that table to console you. So then Kiarna basically says, but that's the thing, Wendy, it seems like you only do things for TV or like in that moment to make yourself look good, but like you aren't a friend to me beyond that. And I think that's valid. It's valid to say, girl, I appreciate that you you did that one thing for me, but I would expect more from you if our relationship was actually real and we were actually friends. So then they're going back and forth. And then Kiana brings up about Giselle, where she brings up how, like, when they were at the second Bloom Ball and she sat down and pretty much Wendy and Giselle were having a conversation about the dresses and all of that stuff. And Kiana felt like Wendy purposely was ignoring her. And I didn't get that from that conversation. I was like, well, she was having a full conversation with somebody else. And she did say hey to you, but she continued her conversation with Giselle. Why is that an issue? So then Kiana's like, you don't like her. And then Wendy is like, I was having a conversation with her and you don't like her. And Kiana's like, yes, I do. And she was like, no, you don't. And I was like, what is happening? like what is happening? So then next thing you know, Wendy's like, okay, you need to take a beat. We need to take a beat. And then Kiana's like, I'm calm, Wendy, but nah, that energy you just gave was really not calm energy. It was very elevated. You're the one being like, you don't like her. Why did you need to raise your voice and yell? Like, why? Like, why? Why do we need to do that? So Wendy is just like, girl, I don't understand. She was just like, I don't understand. Like, what you want from me? It's like the examples that you're giving me aren't really showing me where I really messed up at. So all of a sudden, Wendy started laughing. Now, I would have been annoyed. I'm not going to lie. That would have pissed me off because she was laughing in that lady's face. And then Kiana was like, you know what? This is the confirmation I need. This is the confirmation that I needed, that me and Wendy are just not friends like that. I don't hate her. But I know this is as far as our relationship goes. So then Wendy flicks her off jokingly, and then Kiana flicks her off. And then what was tickling me is when they were walking back to their cars, Wendy gonna stick her arm around Kiana, and Kiana's like, girl, get off me. And I was just like, Kiana, you have valid points. I get it. You wanted more from the friendship, but the energy that you are giving people, it makes Wendy right. Because I would have been Wendy in that moment. Girl, what do you want from me? Because it does feel as though Kiana wants Wendy to, like, hold her hand and, like, cater to her in a way that's not conducive of, like, an adult friendship. And I also think that there could have been a conversation between Kiana and Wendy where Wendy tells Kiana, girl, this is just a TV friendship. Like, I already got my real friends up off this show. This is just what that is. Because I do think that Kiana's feelings are hurt because she thought her relationship was more than what it was with Wendy. But I just feel like she made valid points, but the energy, it's like there's too much emotions behind it, and you didn't even know this lady for like 3 years. So the next thing we have is with Angel's family. I forgot to talk about the whole chin checking situation, so we'll talk about it here. So pretty much we're at Angel's house. We see that it's like family breakfast time. Bobby is making food for the family. We see the two cute little kids. We see Angel's dad. We also see Bobby's mom is there. And we also get more information about how Angel's mom passed away 10 years ago, but she still feels like her mom's presence around her. And I was like, okay, that's very beautiful. So while she's in the kitchen with Bobby, she's talking about how she still has some, like, feelings about Kiana saying that she chin checked her, and also feeling like she doesn't believe what the women are saying. Like, she doesn't believe that that's what Kiana said. But girl, it's true, because Kiana lied to Angel in her face at the party, basically saying that she didn't say that, even though I knew Giselle was gonna throw that lady under the bus, and she did it effortlessly. And she was like, I didn't say that. But then Giselle pulls Kiana to the side and she was like, girl, you definitely say that. And then Kiana apologizes to Angel, and she's just like, well, Giselle is saying that I said that, so I apologize. But Kiana's just like, I don't think she would say that. But if she did say that, why would she say that? Like, we're supposed to be friends. That's not the type of language that you use. Even Bobby was like, yeah, chin checking normally means like you hit some, like, you deck somebody in the check. And so she's just like taken aback by that, but she was like, I need to have a conversation with her. Okay. So we then see this scene of Stacy and Jazzy pulling up. Now, mind you, we all thought Jazzy got let go. Word on the street is that the ladies were doing Stacy so bad that allegedly they had to bring Jazzy back in. And I said, dang, Stacy, They was in you like that. So we see them sit down and like they're at lunch having a good time. Stacy apologizes to Jazzy because she feels like she hasn't been a good friend to Jazzy, even though they bonded over the whole Mia ghosting them in Miami situation. If you remember at the reunion, it like Jazzy and Stacy basically outed the fact that Mia invited them on a group trip but never linked up with them. And Jazzy, she lets it go. She's like, it's okay. And we find out that wedding planning is still going on with her. Jazzy, don't ever wear that wig again. Let me tell you something. DC is hot, especially during like the summer months. And they filmed this during May. I don't understand why she had a full on lace frontal. Like, and she glued it down, girl. If you're gonna wear a wig, it should have been glueless. Or we should have had like sew-ins or clip-ins. Or, like, yeah, I don't know. No. I know her head was hot. I know it was hot. And you could see the lace was lifting because it was that hot. So they're sitting there, and then Stacy ends up asking Jazzy, are you going to Preakness? And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to Preakness. She was like, well, there's 2 events happening in this group. So they actually show us text messages of Kiarna inviting the group to a Black Eye Sandy Preakness, like, pregame party. And Black Eye Sandies are the flowers, or I think it's the national flower of Maryland, or potentially the flower for Preakness. I heard about Preakness growing up in the DMV, but I've never attended. I have attended the Kentucky Derby, but I heard it's like the black version of the Kentucky Derby. Okay, so we also see a text from Wendy where she invited the ladies as well, saying that she was invited to host an event by the First Lady of Maryland. So Stacy said, girl, I'ma just be dressed to impress with my fascinator on. I don't know where we going. Okay, I don't know what we doing. So while they're sitting there, Stacy basically lets Jazzy know how the girls have been treating her about her relationship with her ex-husband. Because Jazzy was like, girl, last time I talked to you, you were cuddle, like, you was making schnitzel and all that stuff. And she said, yeah, we're trying to get back together. We're trying to see how things goes. And Jazzy was like, that's good for y'all. But then Stacy starts to explain how, the ladies have some really like misgivings about that. And Jazzy was just like, why? Stacy tells her, girl, I had to show my divorce documents. And she's like, they're doing too much. Jazzy explains how her grandparents, I guess, got a divorce. And for like 6 months, and then they still continue to stay together for like 60 years or something like that. So she was like, why are we acting like people don't go back to their exes? She was like, didn't Giselle do it? And Stacy's like, yes, she did. And she was like, speaking of Giselle, Stacy pulls out her phone, and it's this picture from this website called Reality Wives. And you see Giselle, it looks like she is on a date with some guy. And it's supposed to be some athlete by the name of Sean Springs, who's a retired NFL player, because Stacy is asking Jazzy, you don't think your man would know about him? And Jazzy's like, he's probably heard of him but doesn't know him. From what I saw online, the guy used to play for the Washingtons. I forgot what they changed their name to. I don't want to call them what they used to be called, since that's like a slur. But yeah, he used to play for the DC team. And a lot of people were a little upset with Stacy for bringing this up. But I'm like, if y'all can dog her out about getting back with her ex-husband, I think we can air out that Giselle got a man. You want to be all up in my love life and my business? I think we can be all up in yours. I think we could do that. I think that's so. The next scene we have is of Tia's family. When I tell you, it was so much going on in that one little scene with all the kids, because you have the 2 oldest daughters arguing about who can come over to the house. It seems as though Tia said that they were allowed to bring a friend over, but Alexis, the second oldest, was talking about bringing over 5 people, and it was annoying the oldest, Sienna, where she was like, that's too many people. Like, she was like, I don't want all them people in this house. But then you see the twins, where you have the girl twin, it looked like she was setting the table. So I was like, are they getting ready to eat? And then you had the little brother like drawing on himself and talking about making a birthmark. I was like, I am confused. And Tia was asking them, what's the problem? Like, what are you upset about? And then Rob comes in, because Tia was trying to be gentle about it. And he was like, what's up? Like, what are we talking about? What are we arguing about? And they're like, we're not arguing. And Tia's like, they're not arguing. I was like, yeah, they clearly are arguing. There's clearly a disagreement happening right here, because Alexis is saying she never said that she was going to invite 5 people over. Sienna is saying she did say that. And Alexis is like, girl, no, I didn't. So there's definitely a disagreement, okay? And then Sienna gets so upset, she ended up calling them gross, saying her brother is gross because he was being disrespectful. But I didn't understand what he said that was disrespectful. And I said, girl, it got to be the teenage hormones. I said, it got to be I was like, everybody must be overstimulated because I don't know what the little brother did for Sienna to be upset. I was like, oh. I said, maybe she just need to go for a walk. Because that house is not that big, to be honest. And I'm like, you got four, it's four, well, not four. Yeah, you got 6 people in that house. 6 people, and I was just like, that's a lot. That's a lot, okay? So we see Tia and Rob go outside to talk about the kids. And pretty much she talks about how they divvy out responsibilities to each other. Like it's pretty like equal in a sense. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom like her mother because that's what was important to her mom. But then she realized once her kids start going to school that it's like, no, I have to have a career and a life on my own, which is very important. And she was just like, one thing I will say that does bother me is she was like, she feels like she doesn't have enough time in the day. And she didn't like this one thing that Rob did and the kids did where like she had been gone for most of the day, and then when she got home everyone was expecting her to cook, and Rob was like, girl, I think you forget that I got a job too. Like I'm up at like 6 o'clock in the morning every day, and sometimes I don't want to cook either. So then Tia was like, well, maybe it's time for us to start implementing a day where the kids start making a meal throughout the week. And Rob was like, I'm cool with doing that, but Tia, you don't follow through. You say you want to do these things, but you don't follow through with them. She also talks about how like it seems as though Rob is more like the gentle parent, like he wants to talk things out with the kids, but she was like, the kids don't be listening to him. She was like, I got to yell at them to get stuff done. She also brings up this point where she was like, I think as a parent you have to show your kids that you will be crazy. She's done that. She talks about how her mom asked her this one time to do the dishes. She didn't do them, so her mom put them on her bed to make her do the dishes. And she was like, you have to let kids know you will be unhinged at some point and go there with them. And I was like, to a certain extent, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. So they're going to try to get the kids to start cooking once a week. I definitely think that Alexis and Sienna should be cooking at least once a week. Like, I know in my family, especially when my sister and I got to high school, Friday was like every man for themselves. Like my parents did not cook, and we were responsible for either cooking for ourselves or going out and going to get something to eat or ordering something to eat. And by the time I got into high school, we knew how to cook. Like I knew how to at least make 2 good meals. I could make a mean spaghetti, a mean baked spaghetti with some cheese, okay? Or I knew how to cook me some rice, cook some chicken, and make chicken rice and gravy. Very simple dishes. And I feel like every kid should know at least 2 dishes that they can cook by themselves where they don't have to rely on their parents. Or if something happens where you are maybe by yourself at the house or your parents are running late from work, you can feed yourself. So I do think that's important. So the next thing we have is Giselle, Tia, Angel, and Wendy going shopping. They're at this like store that looked like Lane Bryant mixed with Rainbow. I don't know. I was like, where are y'all? Where are y'all? So pretty much, they're at this boutique, and Giselle is asking Tia, so how have you been? And Tia's like, girl, I'm knackered. And Giselle's like, girl, what does knackered mean? And she's like, I'm tired. And she's like, oh, okay. Angel pulls up. They start talking about the attire that was worn at Angel's party. And she's just like, and Tia's like, girl, what was like the dress code? Because why did I have on full on yoga gear, but everybody else was wearing something a little bit different? And Giselle was just like, yeah, your outfit was a little questionable. And Tia was like, girl, I know you're not talking about my outfit when, what do you be wearing? And they showed a whole montage of all of Giselle's outfits. And then we find out that Tia actually reached out to Giselle like years ago, hopped into her DMs and was like, hey girl, I can help you with your fashions, because before Tia was working with real estate, she was, I guess, working in like, I don't think it was like fashion marketing, but it was something with marketing. So, but she was like, Giselle never read this story or never reached out back to her. So then we see Wendy pull up. When I tell you, I don't know what the hell Wendy had on, I said, girl, what performance are you about to put on? Like, all I could think about is like, this is what Brandy and Monica are expecting people to be wearing To the Boy Is Mine concert, showing up in suits. I said, what is this? What is this? What is this, Wendy? So then Giselle ends up saying that, we haven't really had fun in this group. And Angel was like, my event wasn't fun. And they were like, no, it wasn't. That sound bowl mess. And Angel was like, oh my God, like maybe I need to figure out what fun is for y'all. So Giselle basically tells them that she's taking the group to Nevis. And they're like, oh my God, yay. It's an island in the Caribbean. Giselle said the last time she hosted a trip was when they were in New Orleans in 2018. And they ain't never let her host a trip ever again. But she was like, now that somebody's in jail, I can do it. I said, what does Karen have to be doing in jail have to do with you hosting an event? What are we doing? So they're supposed to be looking for outfits at this boutique. And I was like, ain't nothing in there giving we going to the Caribbeans. I was like, what is this? So then Angel ends up asking Wendy, how did her conversation go with Kay? And Wendy basically says, it was all right. It was all right. But she was like, honestly, I still don't understand what really the issue is, because nothing she told me made me feel like what I did to her was like a great betrayal. And the examples that she gave weren't the best examples. So then Tia was like, well, no, Wendy, she said you were being kind of shady when you were like, did you do your own makeup? And Wendy was like, I didn't say that to be shady. I did not. She making it seem shady, but Tia's like, now Wendy. And so then Tia mocks and mimics Kiarna, which was pretty spot on. And I said, okay, that's how I know Tia messy. So as they're standing there, like Wendy is like, I don't know what she wants from me at this point, but I'm going to leave it at that. So then we see Giselle asks Angel, so how are you and Kiarna? And so we find out in the confessional that Kiarna and Angel had a conversation about the whole chin checking situation. Kiarna doubles down on lying, saying that she did not say it. And Angel says she gonna believe her friend. And Giselle is taken aback because Giselle was like, girl, I didn't lie to you. She was like, I didn't lie to you. She was like, I did not lie to you. And so you then have Angel saying, look, I'm going to believe my friend, but I'm telling you, if she did say that, that's a problem, because that's not how I speak about my friends. That's not what I do. Like, because why would you say that about me? Like, why would you reference me in that way? So then Giselle actively admits that she lies on people, where she ends up saying, I don't have to make things up anymore. Like, there's enough going on in this group for me not to make things up. So I said, so you do lie on people. Oh, lying heifer. So next thing you know, Angel is in her confessional saying, I'm going to believe my friend. I'm going to believe my friend. But Giselle is like, girl, I'm not a liar. So we're going to have to get that together. We're going to have to get that together. And so then Angel ends up saying, I just don't understand why she would use that word if she did use it, dealing with what she has dealt with in the past. And she was making reference to when Kiarna and that Pixar reject got into that fight. And, she busted Kiarna in the forehead with that glass mug. And so Wendy was like, ooh. And I said, Angel, that's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And it did, because the way they whacked you at that table, girl, ooh, they got you good. They got you good. And so Giselle basically says the next time we meet up, we're going to have a conversation about this, because I ain't lie. So we then see, we go to Kiarna's house. Greg is there. Her mom is there. Her mom is pretty. She's a prettier version of Tokyo Toni. I've seen people compare them. I said she do kind of look like Tokyo Toni, but Tokyo Toni with some sense. With her mind intact. Her mind intact. Stacy is the first person to get to the party, okay? And, she sees Greg. She's surprised to see Greg. She trying to understand the timeline. Then you have Kiarna in her confessional saying, even though I'm smaller than Stacy, like I'm shorter than her, I'm still going to be the bigger person. And I don't understand why Kiarna needs to be the bigger person, because I'm like, what did Stacy do? I understand Kiarna's feelings when it comes to Wendy, but I don't get it with Stacy. It's like you're picking at the lady. Like, you're picking at her and she hasn't done anything. It'd be one thing if Stacy said something or she did something where she lied on Kiarna, or her and Kiarna, like she exposed something about Kiarna, but she has not done that. So I'm not understanding the fever she got for Stacy. I'm not getting that. So then we end up seeing Giselle and Ashely get there next. Mind you, I thought what Giselle had on was fine. Kiarna's in the confessional saying, like, Giselle, what do you have on, this 2-piece set? And I mean, I've been to the Derby. I've seen women in like jumpsuits, like professional, like dress jumpsuits at the Derby, the Kentucky Derby. So I'm just like, her wearing that at Preakness, I think that's fine. I didn't get the shade, okay? So Giselle ends up telling Ashely, Kiarna, and Stacy, hey, I'm taking all the girls to Nevis. So they're super duper excited. And they're like, okay, that's great. We then see Tia get to the party. Then we see Wendy walk in. I thought Wendy looked the best out of all of them. That outfit was, I said, ooh, girl. I said, Wendy. Then we see Angel get there, and Angel's boobies is out. Angel's biddies is out. And Giselle makes a comment where she's just like, girl, why them titties out? Mind you, Giselle's titties are out in her confessional. So I was like, I don't get this. So they sit down at the table. They're all like eating the food that was prepared for them to pregame to. And I think it was Stacy or Giselle that asked, like, is this a party that you guys are hosting together? Or like, what are we doing after? Like trying to understand the logistics of these two events. So then out of nowhere, the comment that Kiarna makes is, well, you know, Wendy wants to be first, better, best. And Wendy looks at her, and the rest of the ladies are looking at her like, what does that mean? And Stacy's like, what does that mean? And she was like, well, you know what it means. Wendy wants to be first, better, best. And so then Wendy said, girl, that's your insecurities, because I came in here with love and light. And Wendy did. And I'm like, yeah, Kiarna, it is giving that you're insecure, because you knew your event was a pregame. It's a pregame. We gonna drink, we gonna eat, and then we gonna get to the main event. And I will tell you this, the pregame sometimes be way better than the actual party. And it's way more important, especially depending on who got the aux cord playing the music, what kind of drinks we got there, and what kind of things we got to eat on. Because if I'm in a good mood at the pregame, I'm gonna be in a good mood at the main event. So I don't even understand why you're acting like she did this on purpose. And it doesn't seem like Wendy did this on purpose. The first lady of Maryland asked her to host an event or invited her there. So I'm confused why you got so much fever. It is giving insecure. It is giving bothered. Like, you need to work on that, okay? So Wendy and Kiarna start going back and forth. Kiarna's like, yeah, girl, Wendy, you could be so condescending putting on your teacher's voice. And she said, again, your insecurity, because that's not what I came in here to do. Like, I didn't do that. You got Greg sitting over there on the couch like, yeah, Lord, here we go. And the mama is peeping the scene, but you could definitely tell if something pop off, she gonna jump to defend her daughter. And Tia is peeping the mom. She's like, yeah, Mama Bear is there just in case something pops off. So then Giselle pivots the conversation, and she was like, well, let's talk about this chin checking situation between you and Angel, because Angel told us that you told her that you didn't say chin check. Well, you definitely did. And Angel was like, well, we talked about it, and she said, like, she didn't say it. So then Angel was like, I was upset in the moment, but we had a conversation. I'm good to go. And I think that's when we find out. So this part confused me, because I was like, did they have a conversation off camera and Kiarna committed to still saying that she never said it? Or did they have a conversation off camera and Kiarna said that she said it? So then, because Kiarna at the table was like, well, yeah, I did say it, and I'm sorry about that. And then she also is just like, I can understand why your feelings would be hurt in that way. So then Angel ends up saying, well, I'm sorry to you if you felt like I did not have your back, because I always have your back. So then you got Wendy, Tia, and Giselle looking at her like, girl, that's not the energy you had at that boutique. At that off-brand Kohl's. Like, what is this? So then next thing you know, Giselle brings up how, like, Angel, that's not the energy you had. So then Wendy chimes in and was like, yes, that's definitely not the energy you had at that Kohl's, girl. It's so not. You can tell Angel was not prepared for what was about to happen to her at that table, because everyone came at her at that table except for Stacy. Everybody. So Wendy basically says, Angel, girl, you're not keeping the same energy. Like, that is not how you were behaving at the boutique. Like, you were very upset about this whole chin checking comment, to the point that you brought up being surprised that Kiarna would even use that language when what happened to her 2 years ago happened. And so Kiarna's like, oh, you said that? You said that? And you could tell that Angel was like, okay. And so she's just like, girl, you said that, so what's the shift? So then you have Ashely being like, yeah, girl, keep the same energy. Like, if you said that, you said it. And I'm like, Ashely, shut up, because you was not at that off-brand Kohl's. You weren't there for that conversation. Shut up, lady. And so Ashely's in the confessional basically saying, like, it's okay for Angel to be upset about what Kiana said, but you need to be honest in this moment and on the fact that you was pissed off. And stop trying to sweep it under the rug. So now Angel is upset with Wendy because she can't believe Wendy busted her out. But Wendy's in the confessional like, how are you mad at me when you said those things and you had that energy? Are you afraid of Kiana? She was like, Angel, blink twice. Blink twice if something's going on. So then Kiana basically says, Angel, I'm gonna let you have that. I hurt your feelings, so I'm gonna let you have that. But these conversations that you having with these people, let's not like. I hope that's the last one you ever have again with them. Let's not have that happen again. And when I tell you, I said, ooh, and like the way that Stacy made that face where she was like, I made the same face. I said, ooh, girl, she just sunned the shit out of you in front of your friends. Or in front of this table, because they're not your friends yet. But I was like, ooh, girl. And you could tell that Angel was deflated because she didn't say nothing else after that. And then you could tell that she wanted to be mad at Kay, but she couldn't be mad at her because she don't have no other friends in this group and she's the closest to Kiana. So then she pivoted her energy towards Wendy, which didn't make that much sense to me because I'm like, yes, Wendy busted you out, but you actually did that and everybody else at this table came at you as well, right? So why aren't you mad at them too? So then Giselle's in her confessional saying, now that's how you chin check somebody, okay? So they're sitting at the table and now you got Angel being like, Wendy, like, why would you do that? So then Kiana jumps in and she was like, do you like her? Do you like Wendy, Angel? And Angel was like, at the moment, like, not right now after that. And so Wendy was like, so you don't like me? Because of what just happened, and I'm not the only one at this table that says something. And even Giselle jumps in and she was like, well, I feel the same way as Wendy. I think you switched up energy, so obviously that means you don't like me either because I feel the same way. And so then Angel tries to say, I'm entitled to my feelings. I'm entitled to feel away and get over them. Like she was trying to like put her foot down with the group, but it wasn't working, girl. Like the moment fell flat and girl, your friend sunned you. Like she sunned you so badly. And you could see that Kiana was low-key kind of getting off on the fact that like Angel was fighting for her life. So next thing you know, Wendy ends up saying, so now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy, even though you the one that said what you said. And Angel is just like, Wendy, and I'm looking at Angel like, yeah, girl, you should be more mad at your friend than Wendy. I'm gonna be honest. Like, first of all, you never should have said what you said to them at that off-brand Kohl's because these people aren't your friends. Like, you don't have a relationship with them. So that definitely was gonna run back and tell Kiana. You just saw the way that Giselle ran back and told you about Kiana saying that she chin checked you. So why didn't you think that was gonna happen to you? But then I understand it's a rookie mistake, rookie move. This is your first season. But being mad at Wendy is weird to me when I'm like, granted, I do feel bad for Angel because they whacked the mess out of her at that table. Like, they was not letting up. And I was like, dang, girl. You was talking about you don't get hazed, but they definitely hazed you. But that's the life you chose to be part of this show. So the next thing we have is all the ladies getting on the sprinter to head to the racetracks. And while they're in the car, everyone's having this fun moment. And then Giselle takes this opportunity to ask Angel, is she okay? And like, let's do a toast to Angel after they do a toast to the trip. And she's like, are you okay? Because you look like you were upset. And Angel's like, I wasn't upset. I was mad. And I was like, upset and mad are technically the same thing to me. So Angel's in her confessional saying that she feels misunderstood by the group. And I'm like, no, your friend embarrassed you. Your friend has embarrassed you twice by saying she chin checked you and lied to your face and you willfully believing her. And then, which is not really your fault because I would believe my friend of 20 years as well. But also the way that she checked you at that table, girl, that's the person you should be frustrated and upset with. So while they're sitting there, you then have Kiana trying to give this speech to Angel about how it is hard coming into this group and trying to find friends. And I'm like, girl, you really don't have friends in this group. You still auditioning to be a Gisellette. So, like, you need to tread lightly, okay? So she then starts to chastise Angel about the way that she went about talking about her feelings. She's like, even when I came to y'all about Wendy, I wasn't like this, and this, and like da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But then Stacy jumps in and she's like, but what about me? Because every time we have a conversation, it is all of that energy. So then Kiana said, that's a different story with you and me. And I'm like, what's the story? Because what has Stacy done, Kiana? Like, what has she done? We get this, like, weird interaction where it does show that Angel can be hazed because they're sitting on the sprinter and Kiana is they're drinking champagne. And I guess the car ride looked bumpy. And some of the champagne got out of her mouth and it got on her outfit. And Wendy was like, Angel, you should clean up her dress because you got a lot of cotton underneath your dress and you've been her friend for 20 years. And Angel was like, well, why can't you do it, Wendy? Your dress is black. And Wendy was like, because I don't got enough tulle at the end of my dress. My dress isn't long enough, but you've been her friend for 20 years. You should do it. And Angel actually did it. And I said, girl, ain't no way. Ain't no way I would have did that. I don't care, 20 years or not. And so they're like laughing about it. Then Kiana tells Wendy to like F off playfully. And then Stacy and Kiana get back into their back and forth, which was weird because I don't know what started it this time, because then Stacy says something. Kiana starts mocking Stacy's voice, saying that she's always sounding like she's performing for QVC and this and that. And then Kiana says, girl, whatever, hoe, or something like that. And so Stacy says, so now I'm a hoe? Now I'm a hoe? And then Kiana's like, girl, it's a colloquialism. Like, girl, it's not that deep. Like, don't go there, Stacy. And then Stacy was like, well, I know. I don't want to get chin checked by you. I know. And so then Ashely's like, oh, that's low. That's low, Stacy. Referencing about how, what's it called? Kiana and the Pixar rejects fight again. And I'm like, Ashely, you can never say somebody has gone low when you constantly were throwing it in Candace's face, the fight that she had with Monique. You're the same person who dug so deep into Robin's finances. You let us know she had 35 cents to her name. You reside in the pits of hell, girl. What are you talking about? So Ashely's in her confessional saying, like, that makes me want to chin check Stacy. What it boils down to is Stacy had every right to whack Kiana, because Kiana has been unjustly coming for that lady, and it's weird. It's weird. It's weird at this point. Also, it definitely is giving that there's this alliance between Giselle, Kiana, and Ashely. Because Ashely is the same person that brought up Kiana's scar last season, talking about, oh, it looks like it's healing really well. And Kiana got so worked up in Lake Norman talking about, don't talk about my scar, and ran down the steps into the basement. But now all of a sudden you care about bringing up something traumatic. Girl, shut up, Ashely. Shut up. But that's all I got for you guys. If you made it this far, shouts out to you. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. Subscribe to the video. Like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.